So if you could become a subscriber of the Alden Report for, I don't even know what it is a month. It's like nothing. Just to support us, just to allow us to continue to do what we do, to ultimately pay some of the people here. I'm not talking about paying me. Pay some of the people here, offload some of that so that they can feel good about it as well. That's really kind of what you're doing. So again, I'd love for you to be a subscriber. There'll be a link if you're watching right now, which is down below. There'll be a link, and you can just click right on our Patreon account and subscribe. And there's also there's a lot of different benefits and different levels. But this is how we are going to support this podcast moving forward. And we really hope that if you're listening, even again, if you're listening to this free version because it came out a little bit later, we'd ask that you go back and subscribe. Support what we're doing here.
This is the Alden Report.
Folks, before we get into our next guest, I'm super excited about our latest program. Look, we've been on television for close to 20 years, literally selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products and services that have had a positive impact on people's lives. We've created millionaires. If you've ever watched television, you've most likely seen me on television, not dressed like this, but in a suit and a tie. Listen, we've re-engineered the process. We're allowing people, a small group of people, whether you're an author, whether you're a business coach, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a program or a service that you feel as though that can have a positive impact on people's lives, and you want to up-level your game. You know, you're tired of what's going on social media. You're tired of AI is not kicking in. You're tired of all the money that you spent and you're not seeing any return. You're tired of all these fraudsters out there that tell you they're going to put you in Huffington Post or USA Today or Forbes, and it's nothing just but a joke. You want to be in front of millions of people every single day all over the country. Folks, we've been doing it for 20 years. We've re-engineered the process. We've made it possible for the average everyday person to participate in this. If you want to up-level your game, if you truly want to build your profile, if you truly want to get in front of millions of people every single day, send me a direct message at Mike Alden 2012. You'll see it on the bottom of the screen, at Mike Alden 2012, and put TV in the message, and I will get back to you personally and see if you're a good fit for us. Again, send me a direct message at Mike Alden 2012. Send me the message TV, and we'll see if you're a good fit.
This is the Alden Report.
All right, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Day Studios probably for the last time in this studio space here. Man, it's been a heck of a journey. I've been in this space for close to 10 years. And we've had this podcast now, which I always thought was 9 years, but we've had this space for 10. We didn't actually start the podcast until 2015, Labor Day of 2015. So I believe I think we're looking at seven years. So 7 years now we've had this podcast, and it's really, really been an amazing experience for me, for my company, for the connections that we've made. And, you know, I wanted to try and get a, quote, big guest for the big 200th episode. You know, over the years, we have not been a podcast that pushes out a lot of volume, right? I wanted to, have quality versus quantity. There's a lot of just shit that's out there. You know, we know that podcasting has changed a lot. The barrier of entry is essentially zero. You don't need all the stuff that I have in here. You don't even need to film it, right? We're filming it because, we have, other mediums where we distribute this stuff. And so it's evolved over time and it's become a lot easier, but it doesn't mean that the quality of people that are out there, although there are some pretty good podcasts that are out there now. And I'll tell you what, I'm a little envious of them. They're doing a great job. So on this 200th episode, I am, of course, rocking my 99-cent glasses because I've been doing it pretty much since day one. There's been a few episodes where I didn't wear the 99-cent glasses. Maybe if it was an episode that was, I don't know, super serious or what have you. I didn't rock the 99 cent, or I just didn't have them, or they were scratched, but I got a bunch of them now, right? These ones are the actual 99 cent ones. We get the backdrop. It's a little bit of a mess right now. You can see right above my shoulder there. There's, I don't know, it's like some sort of schmegma. I'm not going to fix it. It doesn't matter. We don't get a lot of play on YouTube anyway. But 200 episodes, and I'm looking at this list of people. And I want to give people kind of the genesis of this, how this whole thing started. So this room right here in this whole area that we're ultimately exiting, we're staying in the building, but we're exiting this space, is a full-on production studio, television studio over there. This was just a sound studio. Podcasting wasn't a thing, really. I mean, they had started, but no one really was talking about podcasting. So this was just a sound studio. And a mentor of mine said, "Hey, why don't you start doing podcasts?" And having been on television for several years up until that point, I didn't really necessarily see the benefit to it. And he said, "Yeah, no, you should." And I was like, "Well, who should I interview? I don't know anybody." And so we're here actually in the Cummings Center in Beverly, Massachusetts, and there's just tons of businesses here, huge businesses here. All the Fortune 50s are here. Some of them have a bigger presence than others. You've had Microsoft here, and Thermo Electron, and Waters, and Biogen, and Groove Networks, and Blue Vase Marketing, and just company after company after company. It's 11 acres of office space. The tenant layout has certainly changed over the past couple of years, with COVID really kind of decimating the commercial real estate market. So he said, "Why don't you just start interviewing people locally?" And that's exactly what we did. We actually had an intern. Her name was Morgan, which is also my daughter's name. And she reached out. And so the first guy we had on, his name was John King, a local business guy. My first episode was me actually just doing this, going straight to Mike. My third episode was my good friend Matt Faletra. I met him as we were both soccer coaches together. His daughters are essentially like my daughters, and my daughter's like his daughter, and we've been friends ever since. In fact, Matt is co-hosting with me my next podcast, which is called From the Storage Locker. So if you've got to this point and you're not following From the Storage Locker, make sure you do give us a follow on Instagram, give us a follow on Facebook, check us out on TikTok, and also, of course, subscribe to From the Storage Locker as well on Patreon and all the different sites. So that one's, we're pretty excited about that. My next guest, a good friend of mine, his name is Chris Ferris. Went to college with Chris. Chris is a very successful businessman. Wasn't as successful then as he is now, but it didn't matter because I wanted to kind of get into a groove. And people were willing to come on and be my guest and support me. And by the way, they were in studio here. This wasn't done over Zoom. They were here in studio. And the next space that we're moving to, we're hoping to have a little bit more of that again. The way it's set up, it's a bit of a more of an open concept space. And we're hoping that when we do have guests, we can certainly do that. And, I'm not going to go through all 200 episodes, but we've had, again, just a bunch of guests. And I tell you, I have to take the glasses off, and I'm going to have to, unfortunately, when I first started this thing, I didn't need to do what I'm about to do, which is the readers, much better. Now I can see myself, and I'm looking all right. And as the episodes go on and on and on, mostly local entrepreneurs. Then we get to Mark Sanborn. Now, Mark Sanborn is an author, and when I kind of read his book, The Fred Factor, and what it stood for, I was blown away by it. And it's a great book. It's a short book. I had everyone at my company read it. And the premise of the book is really basically going above and beyond. So I would highly recommend that book, The Fred Factor. He's written several books since, very kind of short books. But having him on was just was really, really awesome. We also had my good friend, Larry Benet. Larry Benet is a great friend, a great connector. Really just a giving person, and who has helped me tremendously throughout my life. In fact, in my latest book, Connection Capital, I give him a lot of credit for a lot of my success, and the people that I've met were directly related to Larry with zero compensation, right? And he's just an amazing guy, and so to have him on was fantastic. And then my next guest right behind him was named the in the top 25 most influential tech entrepreneurs of the 21st century in Time magazine, and that's Nolan Bushnell. Nolan Bushnell is the founder of Atari, and then I went on to also found Chuck E. Cheese. And Nolan endorsed my first book, Ask More, Get More, as a result of Larry Benet introducing Nolan to me, and also my book as well. So you could kind of already start to see a theme here, right? And it's also, again, the title of my next book, Connection Capital. By the way, down below in the link, there will be a place where you can pre-order the book, and all of the pre-orders are going to get something special as well. So if you're listening right now, or if you're watching, down in the notes, you can go to mikealden.com, and you can see the pre-order for my book, Connection Capital. I think it's going to be the biggest book that I've ever written, and I've been working on it now for almost 2 years. And Nolan Bushnell, by the way, was amazing. He's the only guy to ever hire Steve Jobs. His career has been very, very interesting. Good times, bad times. But, the guy created Pong, if you remember the game Pong. If not, just Google it for those of you who are now, more into the graphically intense games. Then we had on my good friend Kevin Harrington / mentor. Kevin Harrington was one of the original sharks on Shark Tank. Not Kevin O'Leary, people confuse him, but Kevin Harrington was the original shark on Shark Tank. He's also the creator of the infomercial. A very successful businessman, definitely a mentor of mine in the direct response space. Really behind a lot of some of the biggest infomercials that you've ever seen, like Ginsu Knives and the Gazelle, which is that exercise thing, and just so many others in between. His episode was so great. We actually broke it up into 2 episodes back to back. And then we even had a little retrospective on that with the guy that worked for me at the time, Steve Paris. Then we had Forbes Riley, good friend, also direct response icon. So what I did was, if you're listening to this, right, and especially if you want to be a podcaster, there was a theme here at the beginning. I reached out to people that I knew, right, and asked them to come on. So it wasn't reaching out to a cold market. It's just like any other thing in marketing or in business or networking, right? You want to kind of stay with what you know, and that's exactly what I did. I started to talk to and reach out to those that I already knew. Later on, I'm going to give you some more details as well. But if you're listening to this now, you're probably listening to the free version. Later on, I'm going to give you some of the secrets of some of the things that I did to, in fact, connect with these other people. So if you want to learn about exactly what I did and how we became one of the top podcasts in the country, ranked in the top 2.5%, 7 years at it, some of the biggest guests in business. If you want to learn how I did that, well, make sure you subscribe to our Patreon account. You can just go to mikealden.com and you can see that there. You can subscribe, and I'm going to talk about not just my podcast guests over the past 7 years, but how I did it. I'm going to give you the exact details. There's all this stuff that's on Facebook and Instagram that are trying to sell you services. Look, just for being a subscriber, Patreon subscriber of ours, it's like nothing. I'm going to tell you exactly what I did and how I got some of the biggest names in business and, quite frankly, in the world on the Alden Report. And there's some big podcasts out there, and we've had some pretty big guests. So again, if you're listening, make sure you become a subscriber, because if you've made it up to this point, you're watching it on YouTube or you're listening to it on iTunes, you're probably listening to the free part of it. Then we had Armando Montalongo. Armando Montalongo was on the show Flip and Grow Rich. It was on A&E Network. We actually did an infomercial for him, sold a bunch of his programs. He was an interesting character, a bit abrasive, but he's an interesting character, and you love him or hate him, but I really enjoyed having him on. And we have my good friend John Abdo. John Abdo and I we're on an infomercial together that generated just about $150 million. John is no longer with us. I'm glad I was able to have him on as a podcast guest and not an infomercial guy, pitching a product. His insight and his knowledge and the things that he saw throughout his life are just invaluable. And so to be able to have him on the podcast and to share that with all of you for free is a real blessing. He's no longer with us, and it's sad. He had cancer and ultimately passed. Guy was in the Fitness Hall of Fame, one of the nicest guys I've ever known. He's no longer on this planet, and it sucks. Michael Alden, great friend, motivational speaker. He's actually on our television program, The Alden Report, as one of the featured guests that's airing all over the country. By the way, it's airing all over the country, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on all of the major networks, and even spilling down to some of these OTT networks as well. It's something super innovative. No one's doing it. He's actually one of the guests that's running right now all over the country. Michael Alden, motivational speaker, just a great guy. Done a lot of things, also an author and a peak performance coach. That was just such a great episode. We had Clint Greenleaf on, the founder of Greenleaf Publishing. These guys right here gave me my first opportunity for my book, Ask More, Get More, if you're watching. All right. So think about this for a second. So I get a book deal from Greenleaf Publishing. I don't know Clint Greenleaf, right? I don't know him. I just knew the people that worked for him. And I said, hey, I got this podcast. I'd love to interview Clint Greenleaf. So we made that happen. And now I'm connected to Clint Greenleaf in more ways than one. I have his cell phone number. I have his personal email address. We talk. We're not besties. We do some additional business together. He's given me some referrals. I've given him some referrals. He's been in my clubhouse room. How'd I do that? How'd I get the founder of a very successful hybrid publishing company that he ultimately sold for a big number? How'd I get him in my Rolodex, so to speak? You're listening right now up until this point, and you're a podcaster, or you just want to connect with people. You want to know how to build relationships with people. You want to know how to grow that, and you want to know how to do it the right way. Yeah, it's the title of my next book, Connection Capital. Again, down below, if you're watching right now, there's a link where you can pre-order the book Connection Capital. It's going to be due out sometime probably in the summer of 2023. So if you would like to pre-order it, you're going to get some special stuff with it if you pre-order it now. So hopefully you can do that. Russ Whitney, again, another guy, another infomercial guy that was a huge had a huge impact on my life. He's one of the original real estate guys. He's seen it all. He's a New York Times bestselling author himself. He's a wealth coach. Guys, just an absolute legend in the world of direct response and also real estate. Russ is a very close friend and a mentor of mine as well. Now, let me just tell you this. I didn't know Russ Whitney prior to the podcast. I'm going to tell you how I got connected with Russ Whitney through Kevin Harrington. Kevin Harrington introduced me to Russ Whitney. Russ Whitney introduced me to Larry Benet. Larry Benet introduced me to Nolan Bushnell, who then went on to endorse my book, Ask More, Get More. Larry Benet then also introduced me to Wiley & Sons, in which I got a 2-book deal and a 5-figure advance. So this whole thing started, actually, and it started with someone before that. Started with my good friend, Mark Bigelow, who I talk about in my book, Ask More, Get More. And I also talk about it in my latest book, Connection Capital. He's a big part of it. That one interaction with Mark Bigelow changed my life. So you could see what's going on here on the podcast. So if you're a podcaster, right? Or again, if you want to grow your business, like I said, there's a method to what's happening here. I'm connecting with people, right? This very medium right here of a podcast is one of the greatest connection tools of our time. Will there be something greater? Probably. I don't know. People might like Zoom more now, right? If you're watching right now, I'm recording this on Zoom, and ultimately it'll be, on YouTube and some of the other, platforms. Um, you know, is there something that's going to be better? I don't know. But as of now, the barrier of entry is so low. This is a great connection tool. And here's why. Here's some of the secrets. So if you're listening now, that means you've subscribed. When you have a podcast, even if you just started, you now have something valuable to other people. And what is that? You have the ability to spread their message, to tell their story, regardless of how small your audience is in the very beginning. You have the ability to create content that they can then use and repurpose. So when you start a podcast, you've essentially created an asset. The Alden Report is an asset of mine, an asset that has made me millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Have I kept it all? Well, that's for another story. And if you've listened to me up to this point, you'll know that I haven't. Look, we all make mistakes in business. We get beat up in business. Sometimes things happen. Regardless, I'm still here. And this podcast has done a lot of great things, not only for me, but for other people. And then we jump to my good friend, Ryan Blair. Ryan Blair. So how did I meet Ryan Blair? How did I connect with Ryan Blair? I'm going to tell you. I wrote a book. That book's right behind me. Ask More, Get More. How to earn more, save more, and live more just by asking. And I went big with that book. I put it everywhere. Put it all over the country, and all the Hudson Newses and all the Barnes and Nobles. I spent, I think when we looked at the numbers, just under $1 million actually on that book launch. We spent way over $1 million now. And whenever you traveled all over the country, you would see my book, Ryan Blair's book, Grant Cardone's book, and Tony Robbins' book. And in many instances, I was more prominently displayed than they were. Why? Because I was the new kid on the block. I had the money, and I wanted the people to know who I was. And as I went around and I saw these books, I knew 3 of the 4, but I didn't know who Ryan Blair was. And my girlfriend at the time said, hey, you know what? You should just read his book. What a brilliant idea. You should just read his book. Okay. So I did. I read Ryan's book, and I realized that we were kindred spirits, very similar, same industries, pretty similar background, growing up tough, kind of growing up on the streets a little bit. He was just West Coast, I was East Coast. Tupac, Biggie. I'm definitely Biggie because I'm a little bit bigger than he is. Oh, he's taller than me. I reached out to him and asked him to come on my podcast after reading his book. And I reached out several ways, by the way, and he initially didn't respond. But here's a secret. The secret is what really got him to decide to come on was he was promoting his latest book, which was Rock Bottom to Rock Star. So his first book was Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. The book had already been out. It was already New York Times bestseller. That was the book that I read. But then he had this other book coming out. So now I had something of value of his. And then we developed a great rapport and a relationship as a result of that. And I'm going to tell you some tips later on of exactly how I do that with virtually every guest that's on and why my Rolodex is so vast. Am I besties with most of these people? No. Am I connected with them? Yeah. Do I have real connection with a lot of them? Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, this is the Alden Report. This is episode 200. 200. We took about a 6-month hiatus at one point, I do remember. We've never been about volume. We've always been about quality. We've always been about content. And I wanted to do this retrospective on number 200 to let you know how it all happened and how, if you're listening to this point, if you've made it up until this point, how the things that I'm talking about can help you not only as a podcaster, but as a business professional. someone who's looking to improve their life. Some of the things that I'm talking about and some of the things that I did in this podcast right here in Blue Vase Studios. We're still going to call it Blue Vase Studios when we move. We're still here in the building. It's just a little bit of a different setup. You probably won't even be able to tell. Backdrop actually might be a little bit different, and we actually might even try and do it from like the living room set type thing. So, but right now we are still here in Blue Vase Studios, episode 200. Again, if you're listening right now, I'd ask that you subscribe, like, share, and of course, I'd ask for you to become a subscriber to our Patreon account. Look, we've never made money on this. We've had some sponsors here and there, but we believe that the content that we already have scheduled for 2023 is just fire. It's absolute fire. If you want to continue to support us, support me, support what we're doing, I'd love for you to become a subscriber. Again, you go to mikealden.com. You can just see there where you can become a subscriber, a supporter of ours. It's nothing. It's like a small monthly charge. We have a couple different levels depending on what you want. But yeah, it would mean a lot to me. It would mean a lot to my family and a lot to the people that are here that are working so hard to keep this ship afloat, so to speak, because it's not easy. So episode 200. Then we had several other guests right after that. We had a guy named Larry Lawton, who I saw like on CNBC. Larry was a former jewel thief, and he went to prison, and he wrote a book about it. And it's just an interesting character. But what he did was he then turned his life around and started helping out troubled people, troubled inmates, and helping them kind of like reintroduce themselves into society, or even some of the courts would the sentence would be to actually go through Larry's program. So they actually didn't go to jail, they went through his program in order to kind of reintegrate into society. Really, really interesting character. I'm probably going to have him on from the Storage Locker because his story's nuts. Matt Gannum. Matt is essentially a relative. It's my brother's wife's brother. And his story is remarkable. Local guy from here in Massachusetts, screwed up his life on drugs, really bad. Went on to write a book, is a poet and does a lot of that poetry slam type stuff, I think I would call it, or spoken word. He's just very, very powerful. He came in here, was live in studio, and I got chills just thinking about it right now. I go back and I listen to it, and because I've lost several people to addiction, and the world almost lost him. He's doing some amazing things right now. He's the CEO of Aftermath, which is a facility that helps people that were just like him with rehabilitation and really kind of kicking the habit. I don't know that you ever kick it, but he helps people get sober. So Matt Gannum, check that out. And then this one was great. Ward Arthur, I'm 47 years old. Ward Arthur has been my barber since I was 12. So 35 years. And I had him on because this guy has given me a lot of advice. Gave me a lot of advice. Gave me a lot of perspective. Has seen a lot. You're in business that long, you've seen a lot. You've talked to a lot of people, met a lot of people, famous people too. And we actually did that one right in his studio. It was pretty awesome. And I really, really enjoyed it. Then we had Marshall Goldsmith on. Marshall endorsed my first book. He wrote a book, What Got You There Won't Get You Here, or something like that. Pretty successful guy. Then probably the most important one of all 200. We're only on 31, by the way. We're going to jump around a little bit more, but man, we've had a lot. It's my daughter, Morgan Shuko. We had her on because there was an app called Musical.ly that I noticed that she was really, really kind of into. And I noticed that kids were really into it, and I was just really intrigued about it. And Musical.ly was the earlier version of what then became this app called TikTok. So Musical.ly was TikTok. And I remember asking Gary Vee at a very intimate event in New Jersey. There's about 40 of us. It was $1,500 a plate. And it was just a wine tasting. So $1,500, I don't know, a glass. There's only 40 of us. And I asked him about Musically and whether or not it would survive. And he said it wouldn't survive. Um, it did survive. And it's gone on to be the biggest social media platform in the history of social media. One of the few instances where he was wrong, and I actually have that recorded as well. So we had Grant Cardone for the first time. I had Grant on and I said, man, Grant, thank you for being on. And my second book, 5% More, had just come out, and I was chasing the New York Times. And I had said to Grant, and this, man, it stings when I hear it. I said to Grant, I said, hey, I did everything I could to get on the New York Times. It really, really pushed it hard. And he said, did you get on? And I said, no. And he said, then you didn't do enough. Wow. Let that sink in, huh? That was before it even started. That was even before we even started the episode. But he was amazing, of course. And as I, scan ahead, I had my good friend Dean Graziosi. I say good friend. Dean and I were good friends. We're not friends anymore. It's just Dean's doing other things and I'm doing other things. He's now Tony Robbins' right-hand man. So he's kind of become a part of that brand, and it's pretty awesome what he's doing. Casey Adams, young kid, I saw him on social media and I was like, what is this kid doing? I want to have him on. That turned into, by the way, an opportunity at some point later on where I spoke at an event with Casey Adams, Bradley, let's see who else was there. Casey Adams, Bradley, Josh Denny, who else? Boy, there was a bunch of people that were there. I'm forgetting the answers. The guy that founded Quest. Oh man, he was there. And then John, wait, who else was there? John, where is he? I'm gonna have to go back and look and see, because we had John. Where is he? Bear with me, people. Bear with me. It's going to come to me later. It's going to come to me later. Where is John? I know it's John. Anyway, the founder of Snap, the MLM. He was on. He was amazing. I can't believe it. Where is he? Do I not have him on the list? I know he's there. I know he's there. Hmm, 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 hmm. All right. Well, anyway, spoke on a stage with some pretty big players, at the time. Jude Angelini, Rude Jude, from Sirius XM. That was pretty awesome. Had him on. I talked to him about things I don't think he would have expected. He's a pretty polarizing character. But I talked to him about really his trajectory and how he did it. And I think he really appreciated that. That was pretty awesome having him on. We had Clint Greenleaf on again later on, which was kind of cool. Jameson Lopp, when we were doing stuff in crypto. Jameson's a kind of a crypto OG. Samantha Radakia, also crypto OG. And then number 110, my good friend Jim Schreiner, who also was on an infomercial with me for Arthur D, generated hundreds of millions, no longer with us. And he committed suicide. And it's really sad. Why? He lost his wife and he just couldn't handle it anymore. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I miss that guy. He was like a brother to me. He was a mentor. He was a great friend. Love him to death. Miss you, man. And go back and watch that episode if you want to be inspired. I'm just looking at this list. I mean, just so many people that were just absolutely amazing. We had Les Brown on. I mean, Les was just, just such a great, great, great episode. It's not over until I win. You just gotta just look at him and say, man, I can't believe that he was on. And I'm actually, it's funny, I'm looking at the list. I have this list printed out for me. And I did not see him listed here. We know we had him on. We know it. Dan Coyle from the Talent Code. What a book, man. What a book. You want to read a book that talks about success, changes the way you think about success? Check it out. The Talent Code. For me, it was like having royalty. We had Dave Asprey on from the Bulletproof Diet. We had Lewis Howes on from the School of Greatness. We had Charles Fazzino on, the prolific artist. We had Chris Norton on, who was a quadriplegic who walked across stage. We had Steve Nestle on, who is the founder of Havas, which is a huge media agency. Let me see who else. My good friend Laurel Langmeyer. She's definitely a polarizing character herself. I don't think it's a lover hater. I think she's just matter of fact, and she's seen it all, and she's very successful. And she knows her shit. So we had her on. That was pretty cool. David Meltzer, right? David Meltzer, his book Connected to Goodness. I got it up there. What a great character. He was very clear. 20 minutes. That's it. Only 20 minutes. I had him on for 20 minutes. So you want to hear a quick episode? Had him on. Now all these people, by the way, if you've made it to this point, I'm going to tell you here's the secret. Because if you've made it this far, you are most likely a subscriber of our Patreon account. At the end of every episode, when we stop recording, or sometimes we are still recording, I ask them for their cell phone number. Hey, could you do me a favor? Could you just give me your cell phone number? I'd like to send you a text. Don't even give them a chance to think about it. And they always do. I've had a few people hesitate because they might know what's going on. Very few. You do it very casually at the end. Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate you being here. Hey, what's your cell phone number? I'd love to drop you a text so we can stay connected. That's it. Okay. Now you're building your network, right? And you are building your net worth, but your net worth doesn't really get built. Your network is one thing. Your net worth doesn't get built unless you develop a connection with them. But you have to network first. So you network as a means to increasing your net worth. But in order to increase your net worth, you need to develop a real connection with these people. So network, right? Connection equals net worth. Network, connection equals net worth. So when I'm on the podcast, I connect with them in the podcast. I'm doing a couple things, right? I first networked with them by getting them on, and I'm now connecting with them on the podcast. We're having a conversation, a real conversation. And then ultimately my net worth increases if that relationship, if that networking turns into a real relationship. Then my net worth is now increased. Theirs has too, because they're connected to me as well. There's an exchange there, right? Even if you're just starting, there's still an exchange. It might not be an equal exchange, right? Grant Cardone's number is worth more than my number, right? But my number is worth more than some of the other people that I mentioned as well. Okay. Oh boy, looking at this list, and again, just Sharon Lecter. I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, she's really the one who wrote the book. It wasn't really Kiyosaki. I mean, a little bit. She's really the one behind it. In fact, it was a lawsuit as a result of it. What an amazing speaker. It's funny, I remember that one because we were supposed to do it here and we lost internet. We very rarely ever lose internet here. I ran to my house and did it from my house. So the audio quality isn't there, but the quality is certainly there. Natasha Grano, met her on Clubhouse, doing some really, really big things. And just seems to be just a really, really great person. I'm just again looking at Liz Edlick. Liz, how did I meet Liz? I think Liz came to me through a podcasting agency. Instantly developed a connection with her. Just an amazing, beautiful human being, inside and out. Very successful, super successful, and we developed a connection almost instantly over this medium right here, Zoom, face to face. Never met her face to face, but we talk now. She inspires me. She's a little bit older than me. You probably couldn't tell when you see her. And she has become a great friend. Actually, has become a great friend to me, and she's just really been amazing. Lisa Gable, former U.S. ambassador, also one of the authors that we helped on. A lot of these people, by the way, and I'm skipping over. Like we get 200. I'm not gonna keep you here all day long. But we had a lot of big names. Bob Berg from the Go Giver, Mark Wasserman, Pot Brothers at Law, an actual attorney out there doing things. Tim Story is Oprah's guru. People refer to him as. He has been on, all the major shows. He's been on Oprah like 30 times or something like that. He works with huge celebrities, and I interviewed him from my car. You have to watch it. You have to hear it. You have to listen to it. So check out that episode. I'm not sure what number that is. I think actually, if this is right, it'd be episode 161, which is Tim's story. By the way, I have Tim's cell, and he texts me, and I text him. And Guy has done it all, continues to do it all. He's a pastor as well. Just a really, really, really inspiring person. My good friend Natasha Miller, her story is amazing. What she's done in her career is truly remarkable. She wrote the book Relentless that we helped her with, got her on Wall Street USA Today. She continues to do amazing things. Met her on Clubhouse, which is also just a great connection tool. If my audio seems like it's going in and out, just because I'm looking down, looking at this list, and it's hard to just skip over people. But I know, we're not going to be there forever. My good friend Esoteric, also known as Seamus Ryan, went to high school with Shay. He's a very successful MC, rapper, does a ton of stuff with the Wu-Tang Clan. Czarface is the name of his group. Check him out, man. We did it actually in his car. He was in his car waiting to pick up his son. I just really wanted to get into what his life was and is like as an MC and how he makes money, doing that. Jamie Prickett, the founder of Xperia Financial out of Canada. We helped him with his book. What a story. I mean, an amazing story, and what he's doing now in the insurance space. In fact, he inspired me and a couple of guys here. We all went and got licensed here in the United States. So I'm a licensed life and health agent. Didn't really do much with it, to be honest with you. But he did inspire us to do that. Yeah, I'm just looking at this list. Emmanuel Kelly, I met through Larry Benet. You should just watch that episode. He is episode 195. And episode 199 was David Drevin. David is a prolific photographer / artist with some great insight, with some amazing insight and what he's done in his career. It's just really, really been awesome. And I jumped over a ton of people. There's just so many. But I wanted to celebrate this not only for myself, But for the people that have been on this podcast, for the people that have helped me, for my good friend Charles Parisi, who was the one who told me that I should start a podcast. He's now the founder of a company called Cloudcast out of San Diego. He's doing some really cool things with that as well. And I wanted, again, celebrate the people like Garrett Miller, who's our attorney, but also has a undergrad degree in cinematography. So he actually helps with the editing and stuff. Here at Blue Vase, we have titles, but we all do different things, all sorts of things. So, our lawyer will edit stuff for us, not for legal purposes, but for aesthetics. Our CEO, which is me, does everything. Our CFO/COO can pretty much do everything as well, and just goes on and on and on. So it's kind of how we operate, and it seems to work. We don't get caught up in the fact that we have certain degrees or what have you. So it's been amazing. And we did take a hiatus at one point, but we're going to continue to do it. So this is episode 200. We started this 7 years ago. I always thought it was 9 years ago, but it's really because we've been in here for 10 years. So we started this 7 years ago. We're going to continue to do what we're doing. But in order to support it, and in order to really take it to the next level, if you're listening to this point, up until this point, maybe you've now heard it because it's been released later on. I'd ask that you go ahead and go to mikealden.com and take a look at how you can subscribe and become an advocate of the Alden Report and what we're doing here. There is a cost involved, and we haven't made any money on this, and we're not even really trying to make money with this, but what we're really trying to do is support the system, so to speak, the system of the Alden Report. There are costs, and I'll just be candid with you. Moving forward, I'm no longer doing anything where I'm losing money, just not doing it. And if that includes this, then we need to reevaluate whether or not we're going to continue to do it. But the interesting thing about that concept, right, is I've made millions of dollars as a result of this indirectly, right? And it's been tremendous for us. But we also want to be cognizant of the fact of cash flow, right? So if you could become a subscriber of the Alden Report for, I don't even know what it is a month. It's like nothing. Just to support us, just to allow us to continue to do what we do, to ultimately pay some of the people here. I'm not talking about paying me. Pay some of the people here, offload some of that so that they can feel good about it as well. That's really kind of what you're doing. So again, I'd love for you to be a subscriber. There'll be a link if you're watching right now, which is down below. There'll be a link, and you can just click right on our Patreon account and subscribe. And there's a lot of different benefits and different levels. But this is how we are going to support this podcast moving forward. And we really hope that if you're listening, even again, if you're listening to this free version because it came out a little bit later, we'd ask that you go back and subscribe. Support what we're doing here. I love doing what we're doing. And quite frankly, I know that there really isn't very many podcast hosts like me individually, right? I'm not talking about podcasts with multiple people on. I don't think there's really many podcast hosts like me. In fact, we have outtakes one after another of my guests telling me this, not asking, telling me, because I've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for a long time here in the podcast, but also on television prior to that. So this is not my first kind of rodeo into media, so to speak, right? So the next one that you see will be in our different space. The lighting will probably be a little bit different. It's a more of an open concept. I'm going to have to work on that a little bit. I think it's actually going to be a lot more fun. Really love the space. Actually, it's smaller, but with technology and the way things are, we don't need all the space. I don't need this space that I'm in right now. The lights that are in this room over here, it's a ridiculous amount of money that we spent, but they're obsolete and they're essentially, they work, but they're essentially worthless now, right? So to produce something now is, this thing right here, which is my phone that I just held up, and even the camera that's on this Mac is better than the cameras that we paid $70,000 a piece for 10 years ago. So when we go live again, or when we go again, it'll probably, like I said, be in our new space that I'm really, really excited about. 7 years, 200 episodes of the Alden Report. Again, I want to thank you for being a supporter. I want to thank you for being a subscriber. And I also want to ask you one last thing. One last thing. It's not going to cost you anything. Share this episode. Share all of the episodes. Share an episode that meant something to you. Share an episode that you think might mean something to somebody else. Like it. Make sure you actually subscribe, not only on Patreon, but all the other platforms. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, et cetera, subscribe to all of them, even if you only listen to them on one. I'm hoping that you're listening to most of them now on Patreon. And then lastly, give it a review. Give it a review. Why? Well, when you do that, the podcast gets ranked higher, we get more visibility, and we can continue to get high-profile guests like some of the ones that we just mentioned. So my name is Mike Alden. Here we are in Blue Bay Studios, probably for the last time in this studio, at least. I hope you have a terrific day, and I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to what this podcast is going to bring. I'm looking forward to our second podcast called From the Storage Locker, which, by the way, I'm doing from a storage locker, and there's a reason why. I'm wicked happy. As you can see, I'm rocking my Wicked Happy sweatshirt. I'm wicked happy about the future. The fact that we got here is remarkable. 200 episodes, 7 years, a lot of fun, a lot of stress too, a lot of fun, but it's all been worth it. I want to thank you. And again, can't wait to see what the next few episodes bring. Have a great day.
I'm super excited about our latest program. Look, we've been on television for close to 20 years, literally selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products and services that have had a positive impact on people's lives. We've created millionaires. If you've ever watched television, you've most likely seen me on television, not dressed like this, but in a suit and a tie. Listen, we've re-engineered the process. We're allowing people, a small group of people, whether you're an author, whether you're a business coach, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a program or a service that you feel as though that can have a positive impact on people's lives, and you want to up-level your game. You know, you're tired of what's going on social media. You're tired of AI is not kicking in. You're tired of all the money that you spent and you're not seeing any return. You're tired of all these fraudsters out there that tell you they're going to put you in Huffington Post or USA Today or Forbes, and it's nothing just but a joke. You want to be in front of millions of people every single day all over the country. Folks, we've been doing it for 20 years. We've re-engineered the process. We've made it possible for the average everyday person to participate in this. If you want to up-level your game, if you truly want to build your profile, if you truly want to get in front of millions of people every single day, send me a direct message at Mike Alden 2012. You'll see it on the bottom of the screen, at Mike Alden 2012, and put TV in the message, and I will get back to you personally and see if you're a good fit for us. Again, send me a direct message at Mike Alden 2012. Send me the message TV, and we'll see if you're a good fit.